All right, what's up? We're back. Welcome back to the Illinois Wrestler Podcast. I'm joined by none other than Brian Swaw. This is the college version of this show, but we're kind of going to stay on college topic, but we're gonna do it a little different tonight because we're gonna have our first guest on doing this podcast, and so we're gonna be joined by Jacob Warner, former Washington high school grad and University of Iowa wrestler, and I'm pretty pumped about that. Brian, you have any thoughts on that going into this?
Yeah, I mean, to have an Illinois legend on the show, Washington made, Iowa trained, we claim him first. He's ours first, right? Sorry, Tom Brands and the Iowa Hawkeyes. He was an Illinois boy first. But, to have someone on and get a perspective of his time in high school and then going off to a story program at Iowa. And then, I think now too is, to talk to him kind of about how the portal is going and NILs, because he was he was at the tail end of all of it. And what is his thoughts on it? And, how does he feel about his school being, a hotbed for transfer portals?
Yeah, I'm excited to chat about that stuff. The Iowa situation right now is they're going after a lot of transfers, at least 2 per season, it looks like, and maybe a couple others that still are yet to be named. But looking forward to it. This should be good. Here's the show.
Hey, can you guys hear me, see me? Everything okay?
Yeah. Everything is good.
Perfect. How are you guys?
We're doing great.
I was telling Dalton, I said, I got the introduction all planned. It's like Washington made, Iowa trained, but you're ours first, Jacob. You're the Illinois guy first. And, the 3-time high school state champ at Washington, 4-time finalist. And I'm going to take you guys, your team kind of put Washington on the map as far as becoming a powerhouse with Brian Medlin. That Washington team and what you guys had there with the Punkies and all that. I mean, what a team that you guys had. And you got that Washington train rolling.
Yeah, it was exciting. I think it spilled off a lot before me, though. I think it comes from guys like Jake Adinez and Colin Carr and Dylan Reel and Colton Gladwell. I think it was years and years of buildup, and it finally started coming into fruition. And and now they just keep it rolling, and they got guys coming in year after year, and they're doing a great job there. And I love every time the state tournament comes around, I'm always watching and always trying to see as many matches as I can of the guys.
Yeah. Well, I was going to jump in, Jacob, knowing that you said there was a few people before you, how did that prepare you for your next place in Iowa?
Yeah. I think growing up, always trying to challenge myself and get better partners. And when I went to Washington, I was a 160-pound freshman, and I was wrestling Colin Carr, who was the number 1 182 pounder in the state and won it that year as a senior. So every single day I was wrestling him, and he kind of engraved in me what hard work is, what it's going to take, and then there was guys before him that did that. And it just builds, it's a big snowball that just keeps on rolling. And I think coming into Iowa, coming here, it was, when I was getting my butt kicked and practices were hard, I was used to it. I've done it before. I've been there before. And it's a little bit easier to crawl out of that dark hole and deep hole when you've been there before.
I normally don't wear a jacket on this program, but I have to show you this. So, everyone growing up wants to wrestle for the Iowa Hawkeyes, and my son being no different. So 9, 10 years old, Rudis hits the market for him, and they come out with this awesome Iowa jacket. And so we had to have it, right? Well, then he commits to Illinois. And so I get this jacket. It's got this great Illinois patch on. But I just want you to know, it was Iowa first, right?
Iowa first. He had it covered up.
Iowa first, but now it's Illinois. So now I can take off my coat. So,
that's all right. I grew up an Illinois fan. I'm from Champaign originally. So grew up going to Illinois wrestling meets. So I've always had a soft spot for Illinois. And I totally get it. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I grew up the same. Loved it. I went on a recruiting visit to Iowa. What was it that drew you most to the University of Iowa?
I think the biggest thing is it was in the when I really realized this was was where I was going to go. Is Tom was walking my dad and I out, and he like asked me, he's like, how do you feel about this place? And I didn't know like what I liked and what I didn't like yet, but I remember like biting my tongue, not committing on the spot. Like I was ready to commit like right then and there, and I like held it in, and because I had one more visit the next week, so I held it in, didn't commit. But I think like looking back, like the things that I really enjoyed, I loved the guys on the team. It was like a family, and you hear that a lot, but it wasn't like, oh, only freshmen hang out. So like it was up and down, age groups, doesn't matter, good, bad, whatever. And I just felt at home. I felt like I belonged, and being around Tom and Terry and their intensity and the guys on the teams and their mindset, that's what I wanted to be around, because I knew that's what I needed to have around me to thrive. And that's really what it came down to, I think, looking back. I mean, it just made the most sense for me.
You know, Tom and Terry have this stigma about them. I mean, they're rough, tough, tumble, but, you know, every time anyone gets on and talks about what you just said, it's a family, and it's nothing better than being there. And I know it's kind of corny to say that because everyone feels that about the wrestling team, but to hear someone from Iowa say that about Tom and Terry Brands, no one believes it except for guys that are there.
Yeah, no one believes it because what they see is their persona on the mat, you know, when they're mat side and they're going crazy and the veins are popping out of their heads and foreheads and their faces are red. But the thing about Tom and Terry is they'll do anything for you at any time in the night. And I don't think you have a lot of coaches like that. I think there are some, don't get me wrong, but the coaches that really believe in you as a person, probably over like you being a great wrestler, they want you to be a great person. And you really see that in the way they treat you. And I think another thing is, and this is why I like them a lot, is they're probably one of a handful of people in the world that are going to shoot it to you straight no matter what, whether you like it or not. And I respect the hell out of them for that. And I appreciate that. And I think the guys that succeed here do as well. So.
Yeah, I think they're definitely, you know, I think it's easy this year to kind of get on the Iowa program just because, you know, they got fourth, but it's constant. Like the expectations are so high that it's just like you want to hate on them a little bit because, you know, they just want to win and they're competitive and they're winners.
The cool thing to do is to hate Iowa. You know, the cool thing to do is to get on Twitter and hate Iowa, and you know, and it's fine. It's fine. I'll take it. It's fine. I'll be the one that'll tweet back, and it's all fun and games. But I think, I mean, we got fourth this year. It's not good enough. So at the end of the day, you can hate on us because we got fourth. We're not on top of the podium, and until we're back on top of the podium, we have things to do. We have things to fix.
Yeah, 2 points with that real quick. So going back to Tom and Terry, because Dalton and I had a conversation off the air and basically said, you know, there's not enough college coaches, and I'm not picking anyone that they don't get it, right? From a standpoint of what you said, they're not just college coaches, they're CEOs, they're parents, they're friends, they're this and that. So to hear you say that about Tom and Terry is really good, because me and Dalton were on this kick, like more people need to be that way. And so to hear that from you and someone that lived it in that room, that's great to know about those guys, you know. And then secondly, when you said, yeah, you're fourth, you're not good enough, there's 50 other teams that wish they were fourth, right? And Illinois being one of them. And when you and I were kind of going, we know each other's names, and we don't know each other. So we went back and forth on Twitter, and I'm like, and you're like, well, they won't finish ahead of Iowa. And I'm like, well, they were, and then it lasted 18 minutes, and I appreciate you not killing me and throwing me under the bus or driving all the way up here and whooping me, but it was 18 minutes. We were higher than you, Jacob, so we're going to take it.
Yeah, I was rooting for him. I stayed in Luffman's match against Slavakuski. He was the very last match of the session, and there was nobody in the stands, and I was sitting there by myself in, like, what the leftover Iowa section going crazy for him because he got that overtime win. And, like, there was an Iowa, like, fan. The lady looks at me, she goes, Why are you cheering for Illinois? Like, how do you know this kid? I was like, I grew up with them. Yeah. I grew up with them. He lives 15 minutes from my house. So, like, yeah, it's all fun and games. I mean, I want Illinois to be great. I want Iowa to be better. But it's just how it goes.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, so you said are you currently still in Iowa? And what are you kind of up to these days?
Yeah, I'm in Iowa City still. I'm helping out with the Hawkeye Wrestling Club. So done competing. I'm closing that book in my life, but I've stayed around this past year. Going to continue staying around, helping out. I just love being in the room. I love being around wrestling. It's what I'm passionate about. I love being here. I love the guys on the team, and I'm not ready to just give that up. I still see a great future with this team and the trajectory of it. So yeah, I'm still in Iowa, still training. There was a large portion of this year where I was rotating between Ferrari, Buchanan, and Keeter every other day, and I was just getting my butt kicked every other day. So I'm kind of like a punching bag at this point, trying to give them their best feels I can, and I enjoy it. It's awesome. I love being around them and helping out.
So do you have aspirations of being a coach? Because you have like a business math major or something like that. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, I have my master's in business analytics.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe we'll see where it goes. It's not on the forefront of what I want to do in life. I never saw myself as a great wrestler, let alone coach. So I think no matter what, I'll be involved in wrestling. What level of wrestling, I have no idea. Sometimes I'm just like, I want to go in and help with the kids club. Sometimes I want to be a college coach. I don't really know. I think right now I just like being around wrestling in general.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, from a coaching standpoint, a coach's job is just to share his passion with his students. So if you can do that, which it sounds like you're doing, I think you're already kind of in the coaching game.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely my role. I'm definitely more of a coach rather than like Spencer Lee and DeSanto are in the HWC, but they're still competing, so they have a little bit role. They're mentors, but they're also worried about themselves. I don't have to worry about myself competitively anymore. So all my energy goes into the guys on the team and making sure they get what they need.
So I'm just curious, what is keeping you? Are you just not motivated to compete? Are you hurt, injuries, or what? What's keeping you from just still finding a way to physically compete? Because I don't think you are. I don't. Yeah, go ahead. I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of everything. I'm getting dinged up a little bit here and there, and I'm having to pull back the reins. And I think a big thing for me is I don't want to put my body and my mind through that stress anymore of competing. It's a big commitment to train day in, day out, and live the lifestyle that you need to live to be a great wrestler. And I did that for 6 years. 7 years because I competed 1 year after. I did everything I could. And I'm just kind of ready to move on from it. It's not that I am like mad about my career or anything like that. My goal was to win a national title. It didn't happen. After that, it's like, okay, well, it's an Olympic year. Let's put one more year in. And you're never going to be satisfied with whatever career you have, but you have to be like content with it. And at this point in my life, I'm content with it. Yeah, just little injuries, not want to put my mind at stress and body in that stress.
Yeah, understandable. And I don't think, one of the hardest parts for me is teaching people to love wrestling, even if you don't have the carrot in front of you to chase from competition or accolades and stuff. And I'm 37, going to turn 38. I still wrestle probably 3 to 4 days a week.
Yeah, and that's the fun of it. You probably have more fun now than you did competing because you can go in and if you lose, it's like whatever. I'm not going home pissed off. That's my thing.
It all depends on who I'm wrestling with.
Yeah, good point. When I get my butt kicked by Buchanan during the year, I'm just like, well, I wrestled really hard today. I have like a little bit more of a level-headedness to it, So I think this past year, not competing has honestly been a lot of fun and just fully helping the guys on the team, and I've really enjoyed it. So I don't know. I just don't know if I'd ever want to go back to competing competitively.
I definitely think your mind will change and your approach to, there's a difference between competition wrestling and then mastery wrestling. There's been times where I didn't compete. You just pick a guy and you go try to wrestle like that guy. Right. I think of like you're watching some Russian videos on YouTube for a while. Then you go wrestle like the guys you're watching. So there's a lot of creativity that comes when you get rid of competition and you start coaching. You start to give guys specific looks and you go, oh, I understand a little bit more how this guy wrestles or why he finds these positions to be helpful. So, yeah, you'll have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, I mean, when you're competing, you're kind of in like that tunnel vision, and then you're done and you step back and it's like, oh my God, I missed this. I see this in practice. I see this in practice. And you can kind of like pick things out. And I don't know if I've gotten better at wrestling, but I think my mind of wrestling has gotten better. So
yeah, for sure.
Just speaking of Buchanan, up until about 2 weeks ago, you finished higher than he did, right? You finished second. He finished third in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, he got third twice. So, I mean, I think on average, his placement is higher than mine. So,
but you still had the second while he had the third, in that one in the NCAA when you were the runner up. But 5-time All-American, 97 and 28 career, Jacob. I mean, just an amazing career, and Iowa was lucky to have you. We loaned you out for 6 years, 7 years, but the thought process is why we were engaging you on this coaching thing is now that we know you might be interested, we're going to throw your name around in the state of Illinois if it ever comes up, right?
Yeah, you can try. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see if I'll come back. But no, we'll see.
Well, at least we kept that door open. But one of the big things we wanted to talk to you about is transfer portal, because you were kind of at the end of that when you were wrestling. Not so much like it is now, but I mean, transfer portal is just crazy. The names are out there. The dollars being thrown around are just amazing. And the fact that Iowa is somewhat of a hotbed for transfer portal. So why don't you give us your thoughts on transfer portal and how you feel about it and how you feel about kind of like what I call the arms race.
Yeah. I mean, I was definitely on the tail end of it. Here's the thing. People transfer for all different reasons. Maybe they didn't have a great coach. Maybe they didn't have great partners. Maybe the money situation wasn't right. It's whatever the reasons are, that's up to them. It's not I don't get involved in that. I think Iowa is a hot place because I think it's a place a lot of people want to be. I think when people get on campus, they go, holy crap, like this is not what I see on social media. This is not what I see like from the small glimpse of commentary in the corner. And I think that's what Iowa really is. It's like when you get on campus and you see it, you fall in love with it. As far as transfer portals go, I mean, and a lot of guys coming here, we're going to try to get the best team we can possible. Every other team in the country is doing it. Michigan's doing it. Oklahoma State's doing it. Ohio State's doing it. Penn State's doing it. Illinois had transfers this year. It happens. We're blessed that we have great donors and money and NIL opportunities for kids. But they want to come here. You have guys that are texting kids on our team saying, I want to come to Iowa. And they're like, you can't do that. You have to enter the portal. Like before they're even in the portal, they're texting our guys on our team saying, how can I get to Iowa? How can I get there? And it's like, well, you got to enter the portal. That's how it goes. No one on our staff is going to ever contact you until then. And I know we get the hate from it, but whatever, we're going to put the best team out there. And I think that's what you have to do if you're going to try to, we lost by 100 points to Penn State. So something's got to change. We got to get the best team we can.
Do you think, and I'm not talking about Iowa in general. I'm just think about what I'm going to say here is, do you think, because Iowa, Penn State, the guys you named, they always get the best kids recruits as it is, right? I mean, it's generally those are the top 5 to 8 recruiting classes in the country. Yeah. Has transfer portal hurt any of the recruiting because these kids come out of high school say, well, I go to Iowa, I go to Penn State. Look at Zach Ryder today, enters the portal, and in a year, I mean, he was the guy, and all of a sudden they're recruiting over him. Do you think it hurts the culture or it hurts recruiting at all with these schools?
I mean, it depends on how you look at it. Or you could look at it and say, oh, I'm getting recruited over, and and you could be pissed off. Or you can look at it and say, I'm going to get an extra training partner. I'm going to get somebody that's going to push me and make me better. It's all about how you look at it. I think personally, you bring someone in, like you're going to have to beat them at the national tournament anyway. If anything, they're going to make you better. As far as recruits go, I'm not involved that much in recruiting. But from my point of view, it hasn't hurt us that much. I think we're doing a great job with recruiting. I think we have a couple recruits that we still need to land, but the Zach Ryder situation is crazy. I mean, Rocco Welsh going there is absolutely nuts in my eyes. So I can't imagine what Zach Ryder's feeling. You just got second. I think you got silver at the Worlds, U20, right? You're behind Carter Starachi, a 5-time national champ, and then they bring in Rocco Welsh, who Strachey beat in the finals the year before. I mean,
Well,
if
I'm
I was,
sure
if I was Welsh's teammate, I would be. If I was an Ohio State guy, I would be furious. I'm not gonna lie. If one of our guys, if Drake Ayala left to go to Penn State, and I'll text Drake right after this and say I said this, I would be furious. I would be absolutely furious with him, and I don't know if I could get over it. I could because I love Drake Ayala and he's a great friend of mine, but it would bother the hell out of me.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the interesting thing is like, one of the things, I mean, when it comes to the recruits, eventually you'll just have less freshman recruits. I think that's just going to naturally happen if the roster limit goes down and the reality is like getting a blue chip versus getting 3 or, whatever. They're going to get less freshmen. Hopefully with the JUCO thing too, there'll be a totally different landscape with the gap year between high school and college. Like, I think that's going to, if that holds up, obviously there's a lot that's still to be said, but yeah, a lot of things are going to kind of change, but does it affect, I think Iowa's benefiting from this. Like, Iowa has a culture that has been kind of developed and honed for 30 plus years. So a bad recruit or a bad transfer might not destroy that culture, but do you think it will mess with other people's culture?
Yeah, I think so. I think you can definitely have, you can have bad apples in the program and they can be a cancer. That definitely happens and you see it at programs. And we've had guys that come in our program that Iowa wasn't the best fit for them, and then they go on somewhere else and maybe they thrive, maybe they don't. But yeah, you're going to have that. You're going to have people think that, oh, I'm going to transfer and it's going to be great. And it's not always greener on the other side. I think we had some, without naming names, I think there were some people that left Iowa and are like, oh God, why did I leave here? I think it opens their eyes and I think Iowa's a great place and they realize that. And I don't know. I think culture is ingrained. It's who you build. And at the end of the day, if you're worried about yourself, wrestling's a selfish sport. I'm not worried about what the 133 pounder is doing during the season to an extent because I got to get myself ready. And I think if everybody is on the same page and you have 10 sled dogs running in the same direction, that's culture. And that's what's going to make a great team. But if one guy's going astray and it's going to mess the whole team up, absolutely. It could hurt.
Transfer portal is changed so much, right? And here's my thought process is when it started 4 or 5 years ago, it was always the mid-majors or what you said, some of these programs that didn't have the training partners, didn't have the coaching staff, didn't have the dollars. And those guys that excelled in maybe a national tournament, the NCAAs, they went from a mid-majors to an Iowa, to an Ohio State, to a Penn State, to an Oklahoma State. And I can understand that. I can understand why 2 guys from Little Rock just transferred to Iowa. I can totally understand that, and no disrespect. And every one of the Big Ten wanted those 2 guys. So kudos to Iowa. But what's happening now with transfer portal and why I called it an arm race, big schools are guys from big schools are transferring to big schools, and it's kind of getting into a sense nasty. And there's no loyalty whatsoever. And there's no doubt in my mind that if I check flight records from Pennsylvania, there was a flight landed in Stillwater sometime very soon with Zach Ryder on it, right? So that's the difference in portal from today and back up 3 years ago. It's not just the little guys getting poached, it's everybody. So tell me your thoughts on that, Jacob.
Yeah, I think that goes with the Rocco Welsh situation. He has his own reasons. I don't know him at all. He could be a great person. That would just bother me. It wouldn't sit right with me. And I'm sure Tom Ryan is furious because he's a competitor and Ohio State's a place you can win,
It's Karchla. It's Karchla in front of him. Is it right?
I think they wrestled Karchla at 74 and they wanted him to redshirt and go up to 84. Like I said, I don't know him. I don't know anybody in the Ohio State program. I have no inside information. I don't know. That's just what I've heard.
So crazy. Are you upset now? Does it seem like Penn State's they've split into 2 teams and now they're really trying to attack Iowa?
Between Oklahoma State and Penn State? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
I think Oklahoma State's great for the sport. I think it's great. I think if it levels the playing field a little bit. And you got David Taylor, who's a winner. You got Thomas Gilman. You got all them who are going to be – it's going to be a great program. It is a great program already. John Smith made sure of that. Yeah. But, I think it's great for wrestling that they're going to be good, that they are good.
It's so good. I mean, this is the hard part about wrestling from a national standpoint. When you talk about how do you grow wrestling, the big brand schools are really good for wrestling, and Oklahoma State is a huge brand school. And I remember not too long ago I had a conversation with a kid, and I was like, Oklahoma State needs to and will come back after NIL. I promise you that. And they looked at me funny, and I'm like, no, watch, like, because you know that university has so much history just from wrestling, but not just wrestling, in all sports. That program is like an elite program from a brand standpoint. And so I think that having Oklahoma State as one of those top 5 programs in the country is critical for the growth of wrestling.
I think it is. And then this is probably going back to what you said, Brian. It hurts little programs. You're not going to have Edinburgh get a trophy, and that's not a shot at Edinburgh, but 10 years ago, Edinburgh took 3rd at the Nationals in 2015, like you're probably not going to have small programs that do that anymore, which sucks. And I think that hurts wrestling, in my opinion. I mean, you look at the Cleveland State situation. You look at other programs that are like on the fence of dropping. There's programs already lowering scholarships. I think it hurts. I'm just fortunate enough to be on a team that is good and has backers,
Yeah, they're not going anywhere. But I do think it's going to also provide an opportunity for small programs to compete. It's always going to be about resources. It's never not been about resources. And you have to create resources. But any person who takes over, Northern Illinois with the right amount of financing and backing, you could create something from nothing really quickly in the current landscape of wrestling. It's just, it will take a lot of resources.
It'll take a lot of resources, and then you're gonna run into the problem that you said earlier. Are those guys gonna jump ship? Are they gonna have one good year and jump ship?
Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility, but I think it's always a possibility. I think it's going to be a possibility at Iowa now too, but I think
100%. It's everywhere. Nobody's safe.
Yeah. Which I like, personally as an athlete, I like the independent aspect that it's creating amongst athletes. For a long time, maybe a dirty little secret of college wrestling was if you go to a program and you're not the guy, it would be very easy for you to get pushed to the side and not have an opportunity to leave. Or it just could easily be dictated by the coach. And I love that the transfer portal offers an opportunity to leave just whenever you want to, which is something that I think is good for the athlete.
But do you think it hurts people that leave? Like, do you think there's a benefit to staying for 5 years compared to leaving a lot of thing? Or do you think it totally depends on the situation?
Yeah, just like you said before, it's all about the person who makes that decision. So the thing is, even if it's a mistake, at least it's the person's decision. You could probably, I personally transferred, but I actually transferred a year late and to a school that was out of conference. So, but I wasn't allowed.
Okay. You're not. Yeah, you're allowed to do that.
Yeah, but I was trying to transfer to another school, one that you were at. But regardless, I couldn't do it because of my age gap. Like I had to go somewhere. So it's just one of those things that I do like. Even if it was a bad decision, I want the individual to be able to make that decision because, again, you never know when it's going to work out. You never know when it's not going to work out. But at least the individual has the choice.
Do you think, like back when I was getting recruited, like I wasn't allowed to take visits till I was a senior. They couldn't call me till I was like a junior. Now they can call you, I think, your sophomore year. You can start taking visits your junior year. You have a lot of kids committing earlier these days. Do you think that is maybe a downside of that? Is that you see a lot of these kids commit early, then they go to college and they go, oh, crap, I'm not the same person I was when I was 15, 16 years old. I need to get out of here.
Yeah, no, I think, I think we all find out as we get older that the younger you are, the worse or uneducated your decisions are. But I think that's also why I'm really excited about the JUCO thing. I really think that, there's a lot of people that argue, why are they in school for so long? Well, guess what? We're just having fun. And this is our premier aspect of our sport. So if it's not a financial burden, I mean, why not do it until you can't do it? And this is bigger than, this is the pinnacle of sport, college sports right now. So I like the idea that kids can get a little older before they make those decisions. I also think you get better. I don't know about you, but I definitely am a lot better at 24 than I am 21 or whatever. So I think the time just allows you to mature, make decisions differently. And, our brains don't fully develop until 25. So the closer we get to there, I think we'll make better decisions.
Well, the transfer portal, Dalton, was exactly created with what you're saying. It was created for that guy that was maybe the backup quarterback and couldn't get in the lineup, right? Or the backup wrestler, to your point. And that's where they created transfer portal. But that was created before NIL, right? And then NIL accelerated transfer portals for the wrong reasons. So I think there's 2 points. One, transfer portal is great if you get stuck or you get recruited over and you have an opportunity to leave and maybe go somewhere else. I understand that point. But the NIL accelerated it. Another point is what you said, Jacob, and when I said an arms race is, yeah, Edinburgh might get a trophy in 2015, just like Loyola Marymount made the Final Four 20 years ago, right? There's always going to be that one run. But if you really think about it, right, there's always been 5 teams that have always been at the top. It's just kind of changed a little bit with dollars and cents. Before Penn State, it was Iowa. Before Iowa, it was Oklahoma State. And it's always kind of been that mix. So I think, too, to another point is what I said earlier about big guys getting poached by big schools. The little guys like the South Dakotas and the Purdues and the Indianas, those guys are all going like this. Hey, you finally lost someone too. So it's just interesting, and it's a different perspective. But, the dollars that are getting thrown around is one thing we haven't touched on, right? And it's just, you hear numbers, and I have a number from today that I can't. I've been sworn to secrecy on who it is, but it's someone that's heading out east, and he's going to get 2 years at a $1.1 million. Yeah, 2 years at $1.1 million.
So
and it's just nuts.
So Jacob, so you're closest to the system, I guess. I think are the numbers not your system, not talking about Iowa and the rumors about Iowa, just in general. Just in general across the NCAA, are the numbers correct? Do you think?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. I know ours are. I can only speak on Iowa. I know what some of the numbers are for some of our guys, and I know they're not right. I know some might be right, but I know they're not all right. I think some are inflated by a lot.
Which you can make it's understandable how things can be inflated when people are really wanting things to be like this. But I think the numbers are crazy, but I do think I don't know. I'm pumped about it. That was the question I was going to ask. Do you kind of get a little annoyed or frustrated that it kind of happened right after you have left? It's okay. I'm a little salty because I'm a little older.
You're always going to have that a little bit, yes.
It's $1 million question.
Yeah. I was one of the number one recruits in the country out of high school. I probably would have gotten decent money, but no, I don't I'm not jealous of guys that get it to where I'm angry about it. It's money. At the end of the day, I'm not a materialistic person. I could care less about money. So it's one of those things where, maybe it would have been nice, but I wouldn't trade my experience for a dollar amount.
Yeah.
I wouldn't would I have had the same college experience and that I absolutely love and I wouldn't trade? I don't know. Probably not. Because once money gets involved and stuff, it can get messy, you know? So it sucks, but no, I don't really care.
Yeah. What I heard the rule of thumb was whenever you hear a number, you cut a zero.
Yeah. Okay. That's probably much more accurate.
But here, real quick, right? So another Illinois guy ends up at Iowa, right? Real Woods.
Yes.
And he came there and there was rumors about what he got and he was kind of the first NIL guy from Iowa. Is that fair to say?
He's probably the first NIL guy in the country.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He was probably the first one to take real advantage of it.
So I have this theory, right, about NILs and wrestling. No, and you get an NIL, you get a quarterback, it's $1 million, right? But if he's a quarterback of the football team and they're going to bowl games, he's generating dollars in revenue. And probably the team they're not jealous about it. But a wrestler comes in and gets $500,000 or whatever it is. the other guys on the team are basically free to kick his ass if they want, right? So, you know, how does that work in the room? Because you were in the room with NIL guys. You know, I'm just curious, and I'm not telling you to pick a specific. I'm just telling you, like, what's the thought process of the team when they know a guy standing over the corner and he's getting $100,000?
I think it can be hard on a guy, like a guy that gets, maybe they come in at their weight. I think it can be defeating. It can be whatever the word you want to use is, but it could also be a catalyst. It could be, hey, I'm going to go win the national tournament. I'm going to demand this money. You know, it's all about perspective these days. And I think people focus too much on the negative and what it should be and what if and shoulda, woulda, coulda, instead of just like Patrick Kennedy says, put your work boots on, go to work. The money always takes care of itself. It always works out. Guys in the lineup, like, oh, there's a lineup battle. It always works out. Something happens where it always works out. So I definitely think there's probably hostility. I mean, I'm sure that everybody gets jealous about that stuff. But if you're worried about money, you're not worried about winning national titles. You're not worried about the right things. You're not worried about getting your hand raised, making up 100-point gap at the national tournament. You know, that's my own personal perspective on it. But I'm not a guy that's driven by money like that, not in wrestling.
I didn't think of it that way. I mean, that's a great perspective. And I'm not a negative person, but I just, hearing it from you, that's a great perspective of saying, I never heard anyone say, okay, well, this guy got $100,000 and you know what? I'm going to go out and earn my $100,000. That's an awesome perspective.
Yeah. And I think if more people had that, it might be better, because
to be honest, that's one of the cool things about the change in the landscape. I think it does actually create another layer of motivation. Again, talking about getting older and wiser, like when I was younger, it was easy to chase a state title. It's like, oh, I just want that. You just want that. But as you get older, you start going, what am I chasing? Right. Or if you do get to that position where you're not necessarily hungry to win the whole thing, but you're still competitive. I mean, there were times where I didn't want to win the nationals mentally, but I wasn't going to just let you come, push me around. So there are still opportunities that are out there now for guys to actually use money as a motivator, so that's there too.
Yeah. I mean, that's not a motivator I would use, but I know people that do use it and it works.
Life, yeah.
It works.
And again, you'll be a money motivated person when you think about exactly what you want in life and if it's tied to a dollar amount, right? So for 100%. Instance, I want 10 acres, horses, I want all this stuff. Well, it costs dollars. So now you're money motivated because I want the dollars to get that thing. So I do agree that I think you do need a balanced perspective of life. And, this is where, philosophy and spirituality come into play to understand, what the difference between you as a person and you as a, human operating in this world, that I think is important too. So are you guys doing anything kind of educating people on how to build themselves from a media marketing standpoint?
Yeah, the guys on the team, the university actually puts on I don't want to say seminars, but they put on classes and they bring people in to talk with guys on the team. They'll do that a few times throughout the year. And all the teams at the university have stuff like that. Tom always says the best way to make money is win.
He hasn't been on YouTube lately.
Yeah, so that's what I think. Just win and the money will take care of itself.
Yeah, and maybe that's the only thing that I'll potentially have criticisms for on this topic specifically, and it goes to the coaches. A lot of coaches are old school guys, and I get it. And I think there is a beauty in the pursuit of high level competitive excellence. And I think that's what we all start chasing. We chase I want to be the best. So therefore you focus on being the best. But I do think these, and I had a conversation with a older coach who is gone and retired. He's out of the game, but he was a Big Ten coach. And I can tell how he would fail because he's too dualistic. So he thinks it only can be about competition. So shut up about money and only compete, or it has to be only about money and never care about the process that you need to be in to become the best ever, right? To be excellent. And I think the world, there's two worlds existing. And I think that the sooner that we grasp that it's a little bit of both and trying to balance that, the better the kids will have an opportunity to grow. Because again, whoever's at the University of Iowa should totally utilize the brand of Iowa. I mean, it's a huge brand. It's on ESPN every week. They talk about it, and wrestling is obviously one of the biggest brands in the sport. So to not use it to your advantage would be crazy, whether it's building your social media brands, right? So if you get out of high school or out of college and you want to become an entrepreneur, you want to become a real estate agent, you want to become something outside of the sport of wrestling, that helps you. So I do think coaches need to balance the reality between that situation.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. You look at a guy like, is it Caden Henschel, a D2 guy, but absolutely built his brand wrestling. It's not that he's a great wrestler, but it's just he does great things for the sport. So I agree. I mean, I agree with you. It's a great point. Yeah, use the brand.
Well, I think that's one of the values for going to the University of Iowa as opposed to somewhere else. I mean, you're around greatness, and that is infectious. That's part of your journey. So, yeah.
Hey, Jacob, do you guys have a general manager that's managing the team and NIL money? Because that's becoming a thing in college.
And I'm looking for a job.
And Penn State hired a general manager for NIL, and so did Oklahoma State for wrestling. And now Ron Rivera just got hired by Stanford University to be their general manager of their football team. It's strictly contracts.
Yeah.
I did not know. I mean, we don't have one. No.
Okay.
Well, I'll text Tom my.
I just gave you an idea.
Your resume, give it to him.
Resume. I know, for you. We just gave you an idea.
Yeah, Jacob.
For me, maybe. I don't. Might take
a business analytical degree, Jacob.
Well, Jacob, undergrad's finance too. I love numbers.
Okay,
it's right up my alley.
Okay, sign up for the Brian Swa NIL agency. You're my first client. I'm going to get you a job as the general manager of Iowa.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. You can get a little cut too.
Listen, you guys. I have to tell you something, right? So this is awesome. I'm having a blast. You guys keep talking about age, and if you combine your two age, I might be older than both of you put together. So easy on the age thing, Dalton and Jacob, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm almost 40, so it feels like I'm getting old. Yeah. Jacob, do you have any hobbies outside of wrestling? Like, you're a country guy, right?
Yeah. I mean, I live 10 feet. My parents grew up 10 feet from a cornfield, in Tolono, Illinois. So, it kind of depends on the year, when in the summer, I like to get outside. I like to golf. I'm into hunting, guns, that type of thing. I like to read. So my hobby is wrestling. Like, and I know that's like cliche, but like, that's what I think about. But like, when I'm not wrestling, I'm probably like in the summer, I'm probably outside golfing, or I'm hunting in the winter, or I'm reading a book, or I like TV, movies, I get into that. So I wouldn't say I have like one thing I do like 24/7. I think it totally depends on the time of year.
Yeah.
You look like a Morgan Wallen fan. You look like a country guy.
I like Morgan Wallen. I'm actually not a music guy, is the thing. I was talking to Nasir Bailey last week when he was on his visit. And we were just talking about music and stuff, like if he listens to music before he wrestles. And he's like, yeah, of course. Like, why wouldn't I? And I never did. I never listened to music before matches. I don't have like headphones like that. The only time I ever listen to music is at Carver, like if I'm running or something. So you could put opera on and I'll probably be fine with it. It doesn't matter to me.
Speaking of, that's a good segue, because I watched I think it was a clip on Instagram or something of Nasir training up to the nationals in the room, and I think he was controlling the aux cable. So who controls and who's going to control the music in Carver?
It's totally changed. It's totally changed from when I was a freshman. When I was a freshman, there was no music in the room.
Okay.
Never. There was music in the locker room, but like once practice started, there was no music. So I like wrestling to no music, because I can just kind of like zone in and I focus and I think. As far as like who controls it, it totally depends on the day. Sometimes Terry will get it. Sometimes Nelson will get it. Nelson can be kind of a baby about it. He only likes certain music. So like Patrick Kennedy loves like rock, like hard rock. and Nelson hates it. So they'll like go on battles and Nelson be like, I'm not listening to this. I'm not listening to this. And he'll like start plugging on the iPad to change it. I will say nobody's controlling the aux during practice as far as like going and changing the song. That's like a massive pet peeve I have. And luckily we don't have that. I'm not saying this year does that or anything like that. Like once practice gets rolling, if it's on, it's pretty low and nobody's changing it. But a lot of times we don't have music on, especially if Tom's running a practice, like running everything, there's no music. And I love it because I can't hardly hear when I have like a headphone or headgear on, like I can't hardly hear. And so it just makes it more complicated.
Yeah.
So I was watching, and I don't know if it was ESPN or what it was, but there was this story about the old Iowa team with Dan Gable was the coach. And Heffernan was on the team, an ex-Illini coach, and some of the guys. And they lost to Iowa State. And there was this rumor that Dan stopped the bus 10 miles out of town, and no one would confirm or deny that he made the guys run back in the middle of a snowstorm. And I actually was in Illinois with Coach Heff, and his exact words were, I don't recall. So, not asking you if you know the story, and I'm not asking you to spill the beans on the brands, but, you got to have some story to give us about Iowa wrestling that everyone wants to hear.
About us doing something crazy or about that story specifically?
No, not that story specifically, but I'm sure that story had some underlying issues or things with your team too as well. Like, hey,
has there ever been
10 miles out of town?
Yeah, has there ever been a event or a dual meet or a tournament where you guys didn't perform well, and what was the punishment?
No, but you can ask Medlin about something about that next time you talk to him about him doing it when I was in high school. But I don't know. We never did anything like that. Like I know there's stories of Gable like putting them through practice right when they got back from a meet. We never had that. I think I'm trying to like think of a thing that I can say and not get like any feathers fluffed or maybe get in trouble. I know like the thing is that Iowa trains hard and we hurt our guys and everything, but it's like I think people would be really surprised about our practices and how Tom and Terry are in them. I know there's been some hellacious workouts where I'm wanting to like just go on the mat and melt. We do this thing in the summer during our training phase called a red flag workout, and it just sucks. It's the hardest workout of the year. It absolutely blows. And it's during camps usually, and there was like I think it was the Western Dubuque coaches were in there watching practice, and Aaron Costello, who's a teammate of mine, went there and knows him and everything. And we had this like horrible practice where like you're not allowed to break, you're not allowed to like stop wrestling, you're not allowed to stop moving. Like when you get a drink of water, like you have to run laps and grab a cup and chug it and throw the cup. And like it just sucks. And like afterwards, I think like the Western Dubuque coaches, we were like talking to them and stuff, and they're like, that looked like torture. Like that looked like human torture, what you guys were doing. And it's like, it's not that bad. Like it sucks. It's like an hour and 30 minutes of like brutal workout, but it's one time in the summer and then you're good, and they were just like in awe, like, cause everybody's dead. Everybody's drenched. Tom and Terry are running through with like mops, like trying to mop up the sweat on the mat because it's so humid and everybody's slipping and sliding. So that's like the one, like that practice every year sucks. I know we've had some like pretty late night workouts, like at 8:55 and stuff like that. So where we're running carver laps and stairs but I mean, it's nothing out of the norm, I guess. Not anything that I'm willing to spill, at least.
Yeah. Well, one thing
thank you.
One thing I was curious about, and you kind of started to talk about it, but with I guess the change of the way that the season works, how many kids compete right away, or there's just the lineup stuff has changed. When I was in college, I think preseason workouts were just the hardest workouts of the year. They just tried to kill you until you recovered and then you were good. Has it changed? Do you think that the preseason, in season, have you guys changed your cycles at all?
Not really. It's pretty similar still. I mean, every year it's probably a little bit tougher, a little bit easier. Just totally depends. I mean, I think the biggest reason why those workouts sucks is probably because we're fat and out of shape from being from summer,
Yeah.
Like I'm drinking beer in the summer on a boat, and then I'm like, oh God, now I'm running 4 miles and 10 hills, a week later. So no, it hasn't really changed. I definitely think it has changed in the way like Tom and Terry and the coaches think about like training, about off time recovery, how to push, how to pull back the reins. It's not like it was in the 80s and 90s where it's push, and go, go when the match happens. I think there's a lot of give and take nowadays, and you see that in season and preseason. I mean, my freshman year when we would run long. There's a long loop and there's a short loop, and then you'd run a long loop, and then there's Wrestler's Hill by Carver that sucks, and you'd run hills. Well, now you get the choice. You can run a long loop, short loop, and then depending on which one you run, depends on how many hills you have. So like me, I always had knee problems like later in my career. I could run long loops like when I was younger, but like my last like 2 or 3 years, I would run a short loop and I would just run more hills instead of running on concrete constantly because that would like mess up my knees. So I see like that has been a change where they're like, or like Nelson Brands didn't couldn't run. So he would do a lot of hard bike workouts while we would run instead. So it's definitely changed like in that aspect of it. But the idea of that, hey, we're going to push you and you're going to get in shape right now, that's not going away. You can't get out of that in wrestling. You'll get exposed.
Yeah, not if you're a Big Ten wrestler.
No.
At a top 5 program.
No, I was just talking to Angelo about that because he was like, he was at the Grandview Open and we were like just talking about it. He's like, dude, everybody in college is strong. They could be a horrible wrestler, but they could just be a meathead and just squeeze you, and they're so strong and they're good at something. Like, yeah, it doesn't get easier. Like, it doesn't matter if they wrestle at Grandview or Loras or Penn State or Ohio State or Iowa. Like, every guy's got something they're good at, and they're probably strong,
And there's no easy outs, right? Especially in the Big Ten. There's no easy outs. Jacob, this has been fantastic, and having you on and hearing your perspective, on transfer portal. I mean, you have a really good perspective on things, and this eye right on my chest here is similar to the eye in Iowa, but different colors. So even though you're Illinois guy and Iowa trained, we're still claiming you for a portion of it, and you're part of an Illinois Legend program that we hope to continue and have more Illinois guys on where they went off to college. But just a great perspective, and you got a bright future ahead of you. I can tell by talking to you, your head's on straight and what you really want to do. And I really think you should talk about with Tom and Terry about this general manager job. I think we got an idea here.
Yeah, you could keep me around for a lot of more years, So I think it's a good idea. Yeah. And the thing about Illinois is like my kids club practice in Illinois in Huff Hall. I probably have more hours in Huff Hall than 80% of wrestlers that came through Illinois. I mean, I was in that room from when I was 8 years old till I was 18. For 10 straight years, I was in that room every week, So got a lot of love for it.
Did that helped you just to be close to a competitive environment like that?
Yeah. I mean, the Champaign Kids Club is not known. Well, especially they're a lot better now, but especially when I was going through, we were not known for being good wrestlers. Merle Ingersoll, our head coach, has said was his like mantra was that we're going to be in really good shape. We might not be better than the guy wrestling wise, but we're going to last longer than him, So when I was in middle school and stuff, having like Corey Cooperman, BJ Frutel, Kyle Dooley, like they always would Steven Rodriguez, they would put me through private lessons, stuff like that. That was a big part of my development when I was younger and kind of opening my eyes about how good I could be. So that's why I still love Illinois. I still have a lot of heart for him. But I like to tease him and stuff. I like to shoot Medlin texts about him and mess with them and get under his skin, and he does the same thing back to me.
And do you send him pictures of the new facility and say, hey, look how nice this new facility is?
So here's like a tidbit. I don't know if you guys know this. We don't let other teams in our room.
Okay.
So like when
in which one? Carver
in our new facility. So because there's an underground tunnel that connects them.
Yeah.
So they come over for weigh-ins, and Tom puts a rope that they can't cross, and we do our weigh-ins in a hallway, so they can't come into like our actual room and see it. And I was talking to Medlin during the duel, and he's like, "Dude, what the heck? That's bullcrap. Like, I want to see the new room." I was like, "Sorry, man. Like, it's not gonna happen."
Yeah.
Send you some photos, send you some videos.
That's the story we were looking for. That's the Iowa story we were looking for.
Yeah, that's like just us getting a little competitive edge, Like, hey, you're not, we're not gonna let you see it.
But you still let them train in Carver.
Yeah, so they our old room is still the old
but
room.
it's still a legend room. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, they can train in there, but they don't get to see the $31
I'd
million.
do you get a choice to train in the old facility or the new one?
No, there's
Man.
nothing. There's nothing in the old one anymore, really. I mean, the mats are there, but everything else is pretty much gone. Marinelli runs his Hawkeye Wrestling Academy Kids Club out of there a lot. So that's where he runs his practices. So
That's
every
kind of
once in a while,
sad.
yeah. I mean, you outgrow it though, you know. Like
Sure, you grow it, but man,
it's still
talk
a
about
super great room, but it's just like when you're having to push guys off, like it was just getting too crowded. You know, you needed a bigger space.
Yeah.
No, hey, no one's going to be sad when they finally get rid of Huff Hall. I can tell you that.
Yeah. I've ran those stairs at Huff Hall way too many times. Every single practice. That's how we would start off practice. 15 minutes of stairs then we'd run suicides the last 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So I've had my blood, sweat, and tears in Huff Hall a lot.
Yeah. Well, maybe they can return one day. But
hey, I lost to Illinois last time. Zach Ronagel beat me, so I'm probably going to see him next week too, and he'll probably tease me about it, which is fine because I like Zach a lot. So they did get the last laugh, I guess, which is fine.
Yeah. Well, Jacob, thanks for coming on, chatting about Iowa wrestling and Illinois wrestling as well.
We thanks appreciate for having
it. Yep. And Brian, you got any last things?
No, I mean, Jacob, like I said, your perspective was fantastic. And thanks for letting us in on some Iowa wrestling. And, you know, no matter what color you wear, we're always going to be fans of what you did in Champaign, and 4-time finalist, 3-time state champion. Your name is ingrained in the Illinois high school wrestling books. And that's what we appreciate and respect. And anyone that goes on, and I mean, Dalton will tell you this, anyone who goes on to other colleges and has success, you know the state of Illinois is always rooting for you. You know, and that's the great state of Illinois wrestling.
Yeah, it's second to none in my opinion. You know, I think it's if you can succeed in Illinois wrestling high school, you can go on and do anything you want in college.